Greetings, true champions of the cause. Welcome to Starplanet Beyond the Canon, a showcase celebrating literary fan works from across the multiverse, featuring stories inspired by your favorite franchises. In today's episode, we spotlight two thrilling works by Venom Legion 70, inspired by 20th Century Fox's Alien, the iconic 1979 sci-fi horror film directed by Ridley Scott and written by Dan O'Bannon, based on a story by O'Bannon and Ronald Shusett. We'll dive into Aliens, the Haunting of the Seraphim, and Aliens, Outpost Echo Last Stand, both published on August 1st and 2nd, 2024. Now, dear travelers, let's begin. The freighter Seraphim drifted aimlessly through the vast, silent expanse of space, a hulking, rust-streaked mass that had seen better days. Its once sleek lines were now broken by dents and scars from a life spent navigating dangerous and forbidden routes. The stars beyond shimmered coldly, distant and indifferent to the ship's fate. Inside, the crew of seasoned smugglers moved with the ease of those who knew how to thrive on the fringe of society's law. Captain Alex Mercer leaned back in the worn leather seat of the cockpit, his face hardened by years of close calls and bad decisions. His eyes, though calm, were always alert, scanning the flickering displays of the ship's control panel. Beside him, Sarah Mitchell studied the navigation charts, her fingers tracing their next course toward a distant, forgotten station at the galaxy's edge. She glanced at the captain, her brow furrowed. "Captain," she muttered, "Dockmaster's asking questions about our cargo. He seems curious." Alex's grizzled face tightened in irritation. "Tell him it's nothing. Just supplies. We'll be there in a few hours." As Sarah relayed the message, Leo Torres, the ship's engineer, appeared in the doorway. His expression was uneasy, his dark eyes darting toward the ship's control panel. "Captain," he said, his voice low, "there's something wrong with the cargo. I'm picking up weird sensor readings from the hold. Could be a malfunction, but I think you should take a look." Alex stood, stretching out his stiff limbs before following Leo down the narrow, dimly lit corridor. The sound of their boots echoed against the metal walls, adding to the growing tension that lingered in the stale air. The cargo hold loomed ahead, shadowed and silent. A lone container sat in the center, its surface covered with warning symbols, biohazard markers glowing faintly in the dim light. "I don't like this," Leo said, his scanner beeping as he approached the container. "It's giving off radiation, low level, but still weird. Whatever's inside is active." Alex scowled, his eyes narrowing as he studied the markings. "We don't have time to be poking around. Strap it down, and let's get moving." Reluctantly, Leo secured the container, but his unease lingered. As they left the cargo hold, the Seraphim continued its silent trek through the endless void, unaware that deep within the container, something stirred. Back on the bridge, Mia Reyes, the pilot, sat at the controls, frowning at the fluctuating readings on her console. "Captain, there's something wrong with the power systems," she called out. "We're losing energy in small bursts. Navigation's glitching, life support's acting up." Alex clenched his jaw. "Leo, check the engines again. We can't have any malfunctions now." Leo descended into the bowels of the ship, where the hum of machinery filled the air. But as he worked, the strange signals from the cargo hold continued to ping across his screen. His hands trembled slightly as he tried to focus on the engines, but the growing dread in his gut made it impossible to shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Meanwhile, Sarah sat alone in the cockpit, her attention breaking from her console as a metallic clang echoed from somewhere below. "Leo," she called over the intercom. "What's going on down there?" Leo's voice crackled through, tense. I'm not sure. Systems are going haywire down here. Give me a second. His sentence was cut off as the ship lurched violently, throwing Sarah from her seat. Lights flickered, alarms shrieked through the hull, and the ship shuddered as systems began to fail one by one. Mia gripped the controls, struggling to stabilize the craft. We're losing power fast, she shouted, panic edging her voice. Alex raced toward the engine room where Leo frantically worked. Sweat beaded on the engineer's forehead, his face pale. The cargo hold. Whatever's in there is doing this. We've got bigger problems than a malfunction. Before Alex could respond, a sound reverberated through the ship. A screech, low and guttural, like the cry of something ancient and hostile. It echoed through the narrow halls, sending chills through every crew member. Leo's eyes widened in horror. That's coming from the cargo hold. Alex's grip tightened on his weapon. We need to deal with whatever's in there before it tears the ship apart. The crew gathered at the sealed cargo door, their weapons at the ready. The metallic screeching grew louder, more frantic. The door's mechanisms groaned under pressure, jamming as they tried to force it open. Whatever was inside was growing more aggressive, more desperate to break free. With one final heave, the door slid open, revealing the chaos within. The once secure container lay shattered, its contents spilled across the floor. Amidst the wreckage, something slithered. It rose from the debris, a creature, sleek and monstrous, its black exoskeleton gleaming in the dim light. Long, razor-sharp limbs clicked against the floor as it hissed, its long, segmented tail lashing through the air. Alex's breath caught in his throat. What the hell? The creature darted forward with terrifying speed, its movements fluid, almost serpentine. Alex fired, the shots barely slowing it down as it closed the distance. Mia fired next, but the Xenomorph dodged with unnatural grace, its hiss turning into a sharp screech. Chaos erupted as the creature tore through the ship's narrow halls, hunting them with ruthless precision. Its talons sliced through steel, its movements leaving the crew scrambling to survive. Leo tried to stand his ground, but the creature's tail pierced his chest in a blur of motion, lifting him off the ground with a sickening crunch. No! Sarah screamed, firing wildly, but her shots did little to stop the relentless predator. It turned toward her, blood dripping from its claws as it prepared to strike again. As the ship's lights flickered and the walls trembled, Alex knew they had no time. The Seraphim was crumbling around them. He had to act. Get to the weapons locker, he shouted, forcing Mia and Sarah to move. They ran through the wreckage of the ship, grabbing whatever arms they could find. The automated defenses were down, but they were determined to fight to the end. The Xenomorph prowled closer, its hiss echoing through the air, each sound a promise of violence. Alex set up the heavy weaponry, waiting for the inevitable clash. We take it down, here and now. The creature lunged once more, and the battle began, a brutal, desperate struggle for survival. The sound of gunfire filled the air as they fired everything they had, but the creature moved with unholy speed. It dodged their shots, tearing through the barricades with ease. One by one, the crew fell, Sarah first, her scream cutting short as the Xenomorph impaled her. Mia followed, her body flung aside like a rag doll after one final defiant strike. Alex stood alone, his weapon shaking in his hands. The creature snarled, eyes gleaming with savage intelligence. He knew it was over, but he refused to die without a fight. He set the explosives, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. As the Xenomorph lunged, Alex hit the detonator. The explosion ripped through the ship, fire engulfing the beast and the Seraphim in one last, defiant blaze. And that is where our story ends. After the break, we will continue with aliens, Outpost Echo, Last Stand. We'll be right back. You are watching Starplanet Beyond the Canon.
Would you look at that?
The new Beef Superior is here, only at Starry's. Wherever you are in the universe, there's always one place that feels like home. Starry's, eat in, eat out, but always eat the best. Greetings, true champions of the cause. We hope you're enjoying your stay here on Starplanet. Please allow me to take this opportunity to introduce you to Starplanet Music, a continuously expanding portfolio of musical works that spans an impressive array of genres. Starplanet Music, the future of the underground. Visit starplanetmusic.com today.
The universe is a grand place, full of uncertainty. But the one thing you can be sure on is the greatest pizzas can always be found at Pistol Star Pizza, with over 500 trillion outlets throughout the universe. One thing is for sure, you'll never go hungry at Pistol Star Pizza. Pistol Star Pizza. At Pistol Star Pizza.
Welcome back. Let's continue. The wind howled across the barren landscape of the remote planet, its icy breath a stark reminder of the harsh environment outside. Outpost Echo stood as a lone sentinel against the alien wilderness, a steel and concrete fortress designed to withstand any threat. Inside, the atmosphere was a blend of routine and tension. Colonial Marine Sergeant Jake Mitchell, Corporal Lisa Hernandez, Specialist Sam Dawson, Private Aaron Lee, and Private Rachel Thompson were the outpost's last line of defense. They had been stationed here for months, and their mission was to monitor and secure the area following troubling reports of xenomorph activity. Mitchell, a grizzled veteran with years of experience, walked the corridors of the bunker, checking in with his team. The silence was occasionally interrupted by the hum of machinery and the occasional clink of armor. "All right, everyone, listen up." Mitchell's voice echoed through the intercom system. "We've had a quiet week, but that doesn't mean we should get complacent. Slick, how's the sensor grid holding up?" Dawson, the communications expert, tapped at his console, his eyes fixed on the readouts. "Everything's normal, Sergeant. No unusual readings." "Good," Mitchell said. "Hernandez, how's the medical kit holding up?" Hernandez, busy restocking supplies, looked up. "We're in good shape. Everything's been checked and double-checked." Mitchell nodded and moved on to Lee, who was polishing his heavy weapon. "Lee, are we ready for any contingency?" "Always, Sergeant," Lee replied confidently. "The gear is pristine and ready for action." Finally, Mitchell approached Thompson, the rookie. She was diligently reviewing her training manuals. "How are you holding up, rookie?" Thompson looked up with a determined expression. "I'm getting there, Sergeant. I'm just trying to keep up with the rest." Mitchell gave her a reassuring nod. "You're doing fine. We're a team, and we've got each other's backs." As the Marines settled into their routine, the bunker's systems hummed with a steady rhythm. The calm was deceptive, masking the lurking danger outside. The planet's desolate surface was a breeding ground for xenomorphs, and the Marines knew that it was only a matter of time before they would have to face them. It was just after midnight when the alarm suddenly blared, shattering the silence of the bunker. Mitchell's heart raced as he scrambled to the control room. Dawson's face was illuminated by the flickering lights of his monitors, his eyes wide with alarm. "Sergeant, we've got movement on the perimeter," Dawson said. "Something's triggering the sensors." "Damn it," Mitchell muttered. "We need to get eyes on it. Slick, bring up the external cameras." Dawson's fingers flew over the controls, but the feed was filled with static and blurry images. "The cameras are getting interference. It's like something's jamming the signal." Mitchell's mind raced. "Everyone, suit up and prepare for a breach. We don't know what we're dealing with yet, but we need to be ready." The Marines donned their armor and grabbed their weapons. Hernandez and Lee took positions at the armory, while Mitchell, Dawson, and Thompson headed for the perimeter. The cold night air hit them as they stepped outside, their breath visible in the harsh light of their flashlights. The perimeter fence was intact, but there were signs of disturbance. Mitchell's flashlight revealed claw marks and slimy residue on the ground. "Whatever's out there, it's been here," he said, his voice tense. Just as they were about to head back inside, a guttural screech pierced the night. The sound was alien and chilling, and the Marines' nerves were on edge. "Get back inside," Mitchell ordered, his voice urgent. "Move, move, move." The squad raced back to the bunker, their weapons at the ready. As they reached the entrance, the alarms grew more frantic. The xenomorphs had breached the outer defenses and were closing in on the bunker. Inside the bunker, the Marines prepared for the assault. Dawson monitored the sensors, while Hernandez and Lee fortified the entrances. Mitchell and Thompson stood ready, their weapons aimed at the doors. The first xenomorph burst through the reinforced door, its sleek, black exoskeleton glistening in the dim light. The creature moved with terrifying speed, its tail lashing out as it attacked. "Fire in the hole!" Lee shouted, opening fire with his heavy weapon. The xenomorph was torn to shreds, but more followed, pouring into the bunker through the damaged door. The Marines fought bravely, their weapons blazing in the confined space. The xenomorphs were relentless, attacking from every direction. The bunker, once a symbol of security, was now a deadly battleground. Mitchell's orders cut through the chaos. "Hold the line. Keep them back." Despite their efforts, the xenomorphs overwhelmed their defenses. Hernandez and Lee fought valiantly, but the creature's sheer numbers were overwhelming. The bunker's interior was a war zone, filled with the acrid smell of smoke and the screams of combat. Mitchell's voice was filled with desperation as he shouted over the din. "We need to fall back to the armory, secure the position, and regroup." The Marines retreated to the armory, barricading the doors as best they could. The xenomorphs continued their assault, clawing and screeching outside. The automated defenses, though effective, were not enough to stop the creatures entirely. Inside the armory, the Marines assessed their situation. The walls were scarred, and the air was thick with tension. Supplies were dwindling, and the constant attacks were taking a toll on their morale. "We need a plan," Mitchell said, his voice strained. "We can't keep fighting like this. We need to find a way to call for rescue." Dawson, his face pale, looked up from his console. "The communication array is still operational. I might be able to rig it to send a distress signal, but we'll need to access the relay station outside." Mitchell nodded. All right, Dawson. You and Thompson head to the relay station. Lee and Hernandez, stay here and fortify the defenses. We'll hold this position as long as we can. Dawson and Thompson prepared for their mission, their faces set with determination. The relay station was located outside the main bunker, and reaching it would mean traversing the dangerous alien landscape. As they made their way outside, the Xenomorphs continued their relentless assault on the bunker. The Marines' defenses were holding, but the creatures were persistent. Hernandez and Lee fought back with everything they had, their weapons firing in a constant barrage. Dawson and Thompson moved quickly through the dark, treacherous terrain. The Xenomorphs were everywhere, their movements swift and silent. The two Marines reached the relay station, their breaths coming in short, sharp gasps. Inside the relay station, Dawson worked feverishly to rig the communication array. Thompson stood guard, her weapon at the ready. The Xenomorph's screeches echoed in the distance, growing louder as they approached. "We need to hurry," Thompson said, her voice tense. "They're getting closer." "I'm almost done," Dawson replied, his fingers flying over the controls. "Just a few more adjustments, and we'll have a signal out." As Dawson completed the modifications, the distress signal began to broadcast. The beacon was weak, but should be enough to attract a rescue team. The Marines held their breath, hoping against hope that their signal would be picked up. Back at the bunker, Hernandez and Lee continued to fight off the Xenomorphs. The creatures were relentless, and the bunker was in shambles. The automated defenses had managed to hold them back, but the Xenomorphs were finding new ways to breach their defenses. Mitchell was wounded, his armor damaged from the constant attacks. He fought alongside Hernandez and Lee, doing everything he could to keep the creatures at bay. The loss of his team was weighing heavily on him, but he refused to give in. "We can't hold out much longer," Hernandez shouted, her voice strained. "We need to regroup and find a way out of here." Mitchell shook his head. "We hold this position until Dawson and Thompson get back. We're not leaving them behind." The Xenomorphs breached the armory, their hissing and screeching filling the room. The Marines fought fiercely, their weapons blazing in the confined space. Hernandez and Lee were both injured, their movements growing sluggish. Mitchell's face was grim as he fought alongside them. "We hold the line. We're not going down without a fight." The battle raged on, with the Xenomorphs closing in on the Marines. The bunker's defenses were failing, and the creatures were overwhelming their positions. One by one, the Marines fell in battle, their screams echoing through the corridors. Hernandez was the first to go, her body collapsing as a Xenomorph attacked. Lee followed soon after, his heavy weapon torn from his hands. Mitchell fought on, his determination unwavering despite the loss of his team. Dawson and Thompson stumbled back into the bunker, their faces streaked with grime and exhaustion. The once secure facility was now a war zone, and the few surviving Marines were left to face the endgame of a desperate battle. Mitchell, battle-worn and bloodied, was holding the line with grim determination. His once pristine armor was scorched and dented, and his weapon was nearly out of ammo. The bunker was filled with the acrid stench of smoke and the guttural screeches of the Xenomorphs. "Sergeant," Dawson shouted over the din, "we've sent the distress signal. They're on their way, but it might take a while. We need to hold out." Mitchell glanced back, his eyes filled with a mix of relief and resignation. "Good to hear. We've lost Hernandez and Lee. We're down to the last stand." Thompson moved to Mitchell's side, her face set in determination. "What's the plan?" "We've got to secure the last defensible position," Mitchell said, pointing to a reinforced chamber deeper within the bunker. "It's the only place we can make a last stand. We fortify it and keep those damned creatures out. Dawson, despite his exhaustion, nodded and began directing the remaining resources to fortify the chamber. Thompson helped him. Her movements were quick and efficient. The bunker's lights flickered as they worked, casting eerie shadows on the walls. The xenomorphs continued their relentless assault, breaching the outer defenses and flooding the corridors. The Marines fought back with what little they had left, their weapons firing in short, desperate bursts. Mitchell's voice cut through the chaos as he directed the defense. "Stay sharp. They're coming from all sides. We hold this position, or we die trying." The Marines managed to secure the chamber, their makeshift barricades providing a temporary respite. They were surrounded. Their ammunition was dwindling, and the tension was palpable. Every movement was calculated, and every sound was a potential threat. As they settled into their defensive positions, the distant sound of a ship's engines roared through the bunker. It was a beacon of hope amidst the despair. Dawson's eyes widened with relief. "They're coming in fast," Dawson shouted. "We've got to hold them off until they get here." Mitchell, despite his fatigue, nodded. "Everyone, focus on the entrances. We need to buy them as much time as possible." The final wave of xenomorphs approached, their screeches louder and more frenetic. The Marines opened fire, their weapons blazing as the creatures surged forward. The chamber was a deadly battleground, with the Marines fighting for their lives against the relentless tide. Mitchell and Thompson fought side by side, their movements synchronized in a deadly dance. Dawson operated the controls, trying to keep the defenses operational. The xenomorphs were overwhelming, but the Marines' resolve was unshakable. As the battle raged on, the distant sound of the rescue ship grew louder. The xenomorphs were relentless, but the promise of rescue fueled the Marines' determination. Mitchell, his face grim but resolute, continued to fight, knowing that their survival depended on holding out just a little longer. The door to the chamber creaked open, and the first of the rescue team poured in. The Marines, exhausted but determined, rallied to their aid. The new arrivals, heavily armed and ready for combat, joined the fray, their firepower making a significant difference. "Keep pushing them back," one of the rescuers shouted. "We've got you covered!" The tide of battle began to shift as the xenomorphs were pushed back by the combined efforts of the Marines and the rescue team. Mitchell, Thompson, and Dawson fought alongside the newcomers, their movements synchronized and efficient. The bunker was a wreck, but the Marines' perseverance had paid off. The xenomorphs were driven back, their numbers dwindling. The remaining creatures were eventually driven off or neutralized, and their threat was finally subdued. As the dust settled, Mitchell collapsed against a wall, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Thompson and Dawson were beside him, their faces showing relief and exhaustion. The rescue team moved through the bunker, assessing the damage and providing medical assistance. "You did good, Sergeant," one of the rescuers said, offering a hand. "We've got medics on the way to take care of the wounded." Mitchell accepted the hand and nodded wearily. "Thank you. We held on as long as we could." The rescue team worked quickly, stabilizing the survivors and securing the area. The bunker, though battered and scarred, was no longer under immediate threat. The Marines had survived the ordeal, their bravery and determination shining through the darkness. As the sun began to rise over the barren landscape, the survivors were evacuated, leaving behind the shattered remains of Outpost Echo. The xenomorphs had been defeated, but the cost had been high. The sacrifice of the fallen Marines would be remembered, their courage serving as a testament to the indomitable spirit of the colonial Marines. In the aftermath of the battle, the survivors were taken to a secure facility for treatment and debriefing. Mitchell, Thompson, and Dawson, though scarred and weary, were proud of their accomplishments. The ordeal had tested them to their limits, but they had endured. The wreckage of Outpost Echo was a stark reminder of the dangers that lurked in the far reaches of space. The Xenomorphs, though driven back, remained a threat, and the fight against them was far from over. But the bravery of the Marines had made a difference. Their sacrifice ensured that the threat was contained, at least for now. As the survivors looked out at the vast expanse of space, they knew that their fight was part of a larger struggle. The colonial Marines were the first line of defense against the unknown, and their courage and determination were their greatest weapons. The story of Outpost Echo would be told for years to come, a testament to the bravery of those who had fought and fallen in the face of unimaginable danger. The legacy of the Marines would live on, their sacrifices ensuring that future generations would be ready to face the challenges that lay ahead. The dawn of a new day broke over the horizon, casting light on the remnants of Outpost Echo. The survivors, battered but unbowed, looked forward to the future, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them. And with that, true champions of the cause, our stories have come to an end. I thank you for spending this time with us, and I look forward to seeing you again. Please let your thoughts be known in the comments. I truly look forward to reading them. So, until next time, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please visit enterstarplanet.com for more, and until our paths cross again, I have been your host, Arius Vallow. See you in the shadows, my love.